Welcome back to the Stupid Questions podcast, everyone. So today, a new type of interviewee or guest on the show, Martha Eason. She is a professional singer. She is an operatic singer in a number of different disciplines that honestly I cannot even pronounce, so I'm not going to pretend to, but I'll make sure to link her Instagram in the show notes so you can go check out the different types of, or the different repertoire that she sings in. Is a really amazing singer on top of just being a really all-around cool person. It's really awesome to get to hear her story. So make sure to check out the show notes for her newsletter, for her Instagram, and those other things. And then also check out the show notes for ways you can support the show and jump in on my newsletter where I give 3 takeaways from 2 episodes of the past week in a condensed format so that you guys can hopefully learn something and find some value there. So yeah, thank you guys so much for being here. I hope you enjoy this conversation with Martha and myself. And yeah, that's it. Without further ado, I want to introduce you to Martha Eason. On podcasts in the past?
A couple. I have to say, this is my first one in English, strangely enough.
Oh, really?
All of them have been in German, so I'm very thankful to speak like my own language.
Yeah, I was going to say, are you fluent in German, and what other languages do you speak?
All of the opera singer languages like German, Italian.
Okay.
My French is terrible, but most of the work is done in Germany, so pretty much all of us are decently fluent in German, although it's the
Yeah.
worst language to learn, so it's rough.
Yeah, that's super awesome. Yeah. How's your day going so far?
It's good. It's been a really good day. We're having like really good weather, not too much work. I'm just like working on some really nice projects right now. So
Hmm.
yeah, it's like a good time for a little podcast action.
Yeah, bring it on. Where are you from? Like, where are you at right now? You said good weather because we're having some here too. I'm curious where you are.
I'm in Karlsruhe, which is down south, kind of near Stuttgart. Like I'm about half an hour drive from the French border. So like
Okay.
kind of southern Germany. And yeah, I mean, I'm from Virginia originally, and it's a
Yeah.
little bit of that, but gets colder a little earlier and turns winter a little earlier. Where are you coming
Yeah.
from?
Yeah. So I'm in Redding, California. So it's like 11 a.m. here. Is it like 7 p.m. there? 8 p.m.?
8 p.m. Yeah.
Wow. You are a trooper. Yeah. I would have tried to help schedule a different hour. I'm like usually getting ready for bed at 8 p.m.
Oh, no worries. We work like opera singers, we work from like 10 to 2, and then again, another block from 6 to 10. So these are my work hours.
Oh, okay, right on. That's
Yeah.
awesome. Well, there's tons of questions I have. But first off, I just want to say thank you for making the time, especially because it's 8 p.m. For coming on. And yeah, I look forward to diving in and get to know you a bit. But thank you for making it happen. One thing I will say really quick, um, when I originally started this podcast, I knew that it would have some triathletes in it just because that was a big piece of who I am. But the other 2 big pieces are music and just like business, people who have done business, entrepreneurship, and things like that. And this area of music is one I'm trying to like figure out how to dive into. So you are doing me a huge favor by being on. So thank you for
Oh,
making the
absolutely.
time.
I feel
Seriously.
just like such a nerd getting to talk to like an actual athlete
Yeah.
because I'm such a, like hobby. Yeah, I'm an opera singer is my profession, but I've been running all my life and I'm like
Yeah.
obsessed with professional, endurance athletes because of
Hmm.
their mindset and like what it brings to music. And I'm like, oh my gosh, one in real
Yeah.
life.
Yeah. Oh, thanks. I'm not that big of a deal, honestly. But I really appreciate that. That makes me feel good. Um, for you, like with the endurance stuff, because obviously you've been singing for a while, I'd love to hear where those 2 paths started to cross, like in your journey.
Oh man. Super young. So for me, I started running when I was 12 or 13. I started cross country.
Okay.
I grew up in Appalachia.
Yeah.
And
Same.
so like the house I grew up in is like 10-minute drive from the start of the Yeti 100 race, for example. So like I grew up trail running with my high school friends.
Yeah.
And that's also around the time that I started singing. And it was just like in choir, and it was like my way of socializing, having an activity to do in a group, and like became my friend base, both running and singing.
Hmm.
And yeah, I think that's when I kind of like got bitten by the bug and it just stayed with me. I got away from running in undergrad, and then I've always come back to it, the same as music. And they've always gone together somehow. And they've
Yeah.
always like informed each other. And it wasn't until I started when I uh, got back in touch with Caitlin, who you've interviewed,
Hmm.
Caitlin Alexander. And I just said, I want to run my first marathon, train me for it.
Let's go.
And I like started just like making all these connections between what I was doing in opera
Mm,
and running. Like so many connections. And it changed my work life for the better. Like it definitely helped me understand how to train my own voice in a way that like opera singing is like an athletic event and we train these tiny little muscles to sing over an orchestra with no amplification, like in a huge room.
yeah, no kidding.
And it's like learning about recovery and like all these different things super helped my singing. So going at technique, like singing technique from a aspect of like endurance sport training, game changer. Yeah.
Yeah. That's so neat. I love whenever I've gotten into something new and spent a considerable amount of time in it, more than just kind of a quick couple weeks. It's really cool how you start to see the different parallels and like analogous things you can draw between these different practices, whether they're, yeah, fields of study or hobbies or things like that. I think that's one of the beauties of life, just to see like how connected everything is, what you're saying.
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Absolutely.
when you started getting into opera singing, and then you are obviously doing the endurance side, you mentioned like the recovery aspect. I'm just before I ask some of these other deeper questions, I'm just curious, what does a recovery process or protocol look like for when you're doing your job and you need to like bring it in for a second, get your heart rate down or whatever that looks like?
Oh yeah. So I'm a fest singer, and what that means is like we're basically a repertory theater in Germany. It's the only country where this exists for opera singers. It's the same team of singers, and we perform everything the whole season. Everywhere else in the world, it's freelance, so you have a different group of singers. It's kind of like baseball. Like we're the same team, and we play every night. And
Yeah.
we play different games and we play in different places. So we're on stage a lot and then we're rehearsing 7 to 8 hours a day with these two tiny, tiny little muscles. And there are tons of overuse injuries happening.
Mm,
And our contracts are really old. So I work with the union to like reflect that because if you are singing, I would say if you're singing 9 days a row with orchestra, like you're going to run the risk of getting like a vocal edema or like kind of one of these overuse injuries. So we need
uh,
specific amount of time off. Like we are not allowed to be called within 12 hours of each other because it's dangerous physically. So all of
wow.
these kind of things. And then, yeah, like basically rehab for the voice, is a lot of voice science and communication and breathing techniques and like how you're using the voice, similar to like when I started running into injuries when I started training for my first marathon. It was like going to a PT and being like, help.
Yeah.
Same as like going to a voice therapist when you're injured and figure like troubleshooting that and
Mm,
like learning how to come back from an injury, like a vocal injury, sort of that sort of thing. Yeah.
yeah. That's cool. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
So the first question I'd love to like actually dive into, that's one I ask. You may have heard me ask this to of other people, but this first question is, who is Martha according to you?
Oh, that's such a hard question, actually. What a rough question to start people out on. I really
Yep.
think, yeah.
Take all
Oh,
the time you need.
identity is so tricky. I think like when we are speaking to a lot of endurance athletes and like me as a artist or an opera singer,
Hmm.
my identity is like I want to say my identity is an opera singer, but that's so contingent on external things, like somebody allowing
Yeah.
me on stage, somebody choosing me in an audition.
Yeah.
Um, And then my identity has changed so much over the years. So, yeah, like, I would say I'm a musician.
Hmm.
I love writing. I'm a writer. I like creating things, and I like communicating with people. I think whatever form that takes and I like movement. I would say, like, moving, singing,
Yeah.
and creating things, especially with text. I think that would be my defining characteristics.
Yeah. You said with text?
Yeah, with text. I think like, opera is really movement and physical activity
Hmm.
mixed with literature and text
Mm,
and having that added meaning. That's why I started as a pianist and I was like, there are no words. I want words. I want poetry. I want like theater,
mhm.
something visual and something, yeah, with that added element of meaning to it.
Yeah. Did
Yeah.
when you were growing up, was like, were there other musicians in your family, and was it pretty early on that you found like this love for music and performance and yeah.
Yeah. I mean, my grandfather died before I was born, but he was like pretty much the only musician in the family.
Oh, really?
Bluegrass, of course, because I grew up in
Awesome.
Appalachia. So, and we like didn't have a piano growing up, but he made one. He had one of these old player pianos that was like from a speakeasy bar, and he
Mhm.
rebuilt the whole thing, and it was horribly out of tune, but I still remember like how it sounds and that like graininess and like falling in love with this kind of out of tune piano where each
Mm,
key was like a different color, which helped me learn the piano because I was like, there's middle C, there's G, like it's the one that's like chipped, and
mm.
it's not quite a G.
Yeah, it's
um
like in between.
it's like, and I was just obsessed with it from like when I was like super young, and that's what really got me into music. And my mom, she doesn't realize, she's like one of those people she can sit down at the piano and look at a piece of music and be like, blah, 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 and doesn't realize that's not normal.
Oh, wow. Yeah,
But neither of my parents are trained musicians at all. But
yeah.
they're always singing, always making noise. There was always music around. I also grew
Mm,
up in a Southern Baptist church. So like there there's music all the time. In Appalachia, we have a huge bluegrass tradition. So I was just kind of surrounded by it a lot. Never
yeah,
opera, never orchestra music. That was a new thing for me. Um, but I sort of love that that's my musical history and that's what I bring to like Mozart.
yeah. Yeah, like, I was gonna say, do you have that is that influence how does that influence present itself in the art form that you currently are in with opera, singing and performance
Yeah,
and things like that?
I definitely think I've brought like some of my own musical ideas from that tradition into classical music. And I've also done a lot of modern music, like modern composed music, especially modern American opera. I think because of that kind of connection to American music history being kind of
Mhm,
like something I grew up with.
yeah.
Um, yeah, but Mozart can be pretty boring unless you add something to it. We've been singing that stuff for a long time. It's like
It's
maybe 20.
amazing how long it's actually stuck around, like,
Yeah.
in terms of, like, the popular conversation, like, everyone thinks
Mhm.
Beethoven, Mozart, Bach, all of
Mhm.
those, yeah, they just have standed the test of time, which I don't know if you can say the same for other artists, which is
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Do you have siblings?
I'm an only child, but I come from a
Okay.
huge family, so
Yeah.
it's never felt like it.
Yeah. So do you feel like because you were an only child, you had more connection with your parents than you think just because you were there kind of with them more constantly?
A little bit. Both my parents were working parents. My dad is an accountant, my mom's a high school teacher, high school science and
Okay.
math teacher. And so I honestly think this is a little bit of why I became a musician was because often they were off, working, doing their things. And I was like, I have time to practice. And it takes like a lot of practice. And I just kind of got obsessed at an early age and was like, great, I
Mhm.
have hours and hours to myself. I can sit and like
Awesome.
learn music. I can learn things on the piano. And then when I started singing, I could just sit for hours and listen to recordings of like famous singers and try to figure out
Mm,
how they were like singing so high or singing so fast and like how does a human make that noise?
mm.
Um, yeah, so I think it was like a little left to my own devices helped me become a musician.
Yeah. So whenever I started learning to want to play piano, it was driven from very much of like an emotional,
Yeah.
like I want to figure out how to express this, or like I would hear a certain piece and it would make me feel a certain thing, and I would want to evoke that again in myself, and then maybe in others, but more of in myself. But for you, it seems like it was more like curiosity driven, at least early on. Is that accurate to say? Like understanding the analytics of how this actually works, and has it changed over time?
Yeah. Oh, I love that that's your first connection with music because I think that's a really mature connection with music and a pure connection that I didn't have until later.
Mm,
Actually, this emotional connection came for me later. It was like the sport of it. The sport of making music is what drew me to it. It was like the technique, um, how it was composed, how it was put together. And then with singing, it was like physically, how do you do it? And
Yeah.
it's like there's a little bit of endurance involved and like growing your breath and understanding how to do that. Um, but it wasn't until later that when I started actually performing and then
Mm,
having a connection with an audience, that I saw like how much music can affect people. And then I never went to the opera until I was 19, and it was on a date. And he took me to the Metropolitan Opera to see Renee Fleming and Thais, and it was such an overwhelming experience because I'd never heard a live orchestra before. And like
mm,
when you hear a live orchestra for the first time and you hear a human voice like smashing it over like a 75-piece orchestra, and it's one of the best voices of our time, I just lost it. I just like burst into tears. It was
no,
completely
isn't it amazing?
overwhelming.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's when I was like, oh man, this is like the voice or the piano or whatever it is, like music carries such emotional inhalt in it.
Mm.
Like you can transmit to people.
That's a beautiful word, by the way. I don't think I've ever heard. Emotional what was it? Inhalt?
Oh, sorry. Inhalt. It's a German
It's
word.
a German word, but I love the word. I think that's great. What does that mean?
Uh, emotional.
Like
I think that's why I said
heaviness?
it's like
Like,
not a good English equivalent, but like what it carries inside of it.
mm-hmm. I
Yeah.
see what you're saying. Yeah, like because
Capacity.
it can drive. Yeah, it can drive to the heart. Was that like your first real experience then of like, oh, this is an emotional thing for me now? Like you start to overlay the emotion on top of the sport.
Yeah. And it
Okay.
took me, or it has taken me a long time. Like that's been the biggest struggle professionally for me, is that I'm a very technical singer. And now I've flip-flopped. Now I'm like all emotion and technique, whatever.
Mm,
But
yeah.
it was very hard for me to express that connection then to an audience, because I wanted to express the academic side of the music and sing it very perfectly and present a very polished, but it's singing. It's like emotion. And I didn't
Mm.
make that connection until later. So, yeah.
And when you said you were 19.
Mhm.
Is it fair to assume, or I want to kind of ask a little bit deeper here, like, was there things going on in your life as a 19-year-old where maybe the emotional sense was kind of growing to a level to where like, now it's important because I need to work through these things, or like yeah, it seems like there may have been. So what was that connection?
Yeah, it there was like the spark of the connection, but I honestly don't think I was. Wow. Yeah. I mean, when I really think about it, I don't think I was able to truly connect emotionally to a piece until probably 3 or 4 years into my career of performing. And I started doing repertoire that I really was in love with, Verdi, and it's these just emotionally intense music and the best female characters. Like, I mean, you're singing your heart out and you get murdered at the end, and it's just like blood, sex, rock and roll. It's great music.
Mm,
Um, and I remember the first time I felt like I was performing with my own emotions, but also still keeping them in check so the audience is getting the experience they deserve.
mm,
Um, was after a breakup, and then I had this Verdi opera the next day, and I was like, ah,
yeah.
all of the emotions, but it was still hopefully a professional performance, because that's the balance you have to find, is like you want to put your raw emotions, you want to express yourself through your singing, but it's done in classical, in like an opera, through a very technical way, almost like you're playing an instrument, kind of. Um,
I understand what you mean.
yeah, because you want the audience to have the crazy emotional reaction. And sometimes if you're the one having it, they feel disconnected. So you have to like constantly check in to be sure, like, are they with me? Are they not? How far can we go? If that
So
makes
let
any.
me interrupt really quick. How do you gauge that whenever you, because are you judging that based on just like eye contact or like body language? Like how do you know for sure what they're feeling or if they're connected, disconnected? Because I've done public speaking and I feel like there's some similar thing there.
Mhm.
But yeah, let me know what you think.
That's really so when we're on stage, you can't see them at all. Like
Just blinded by
you're
the lights.
blinded. Um, it honestly, this sounds crazy, but it's a feeling that, I mean,
Mm,
I've like given over 400 some performances and at it for a while, and it's just a feeling. And then it also helps when you're on stage with your colleagues, because you can start matching each other's energy. And then you
Mhm.
have the conductor is like kind of out further, and he's more in contact, or they are more in contact with the audience um, than we are, sort of. And so if you can kind of read them, and we always have our eyes on him anyway, like then you're gonna have a better idea. But it's kind of an instinct. You're like,
Yeah.
if I really, go for it tonight, it might be too much for the audience, and they'll be like checked out. Yeah.
Mm. That's like, sorcery. That's like you can't, I don't know if you can teach that other than doing 400 different shows. I guess, I mean, some people are natural performers and the way that they carry themselves in a room with a small group or whatnot. Like, I'm just thinking out loud, like the energy that they carry, you can feel that and you can
Mhm.
feed off of that. But from such a technical standpoint, like when I get emotional, I'm just thinking about talking alone or in a stint of anger. It's like very hard
Mhm.
to control your nervous system in general, but like especially your vocal cords. And I can only imagine when you're getting into something, being able to hold that back while also thinking about the techniques or the technicalities of singing and then connecting with the audience. Like there's a lot of stuff, timing.
Mhm.
Yeah, I can imagine that's really difficult.
Yeah, yeah. But it's interesting you brought up the nervous system, because that's a lot of what we're talking about kind of in the industry amongst singers right now, because it has so much to do
Mm.
with your ability to vocalize and communicate. Yeah.
S- So according to Martha, then like what makes a good singer? Is it more
Ooh.
technical? Is it more emotion? Does it depend on the music? Like what do you think?
I think I think if someone can communicate text, and not just the text, but the meaning behind it, and a unique meaning behind it that's clear, like clarity. Even if you like mess up the high note and crack, you've got me.
Mm.
Like if you have like a very clear intention, and you communicate that in a way that maybe you've practiced, maybe you haven't practiced, maybe you've been in the practice room going through iterations and trying this and trying that. And then you have like a palette of things that you can choose in the moment on stage based on your feeling and what the
Mm.
vibe is. But if you can like communicate a clear, strong, striking emotion to the audience that in some way is unique, like we have in life, like even this podcast, like combinations of different ideas from different places. And I think that's can in the essence be like sometimes what creativity is like putting two ideas together or two emotions together in one clear moment and communicating that kind of like hits somebody
Mm.
on the head or like in the heart, that they're like, whoa. And I think that's also why opera and like big sounds drew me in, because it like puts a magnifying glass on small life moments that like blows them up,
Mm.
and you see them in a different way for the first time. Like,
Mm.
yeah, it's a very
Yeah, no, that's a great
philosophical
answer.
answer, but
No, I love it. I love it. I love geeking out about this stuff because, when you said earlier, you fell in love with that out of tune piano. I
Mhm,
think of, and this may be like a stretch, but I think of artists like, in my opinion, like Bob Dylan, he wrote a lot of good lyrics. I didn't think he was that great of a singer technically, but in his ability, because of the time he was in,
mhm,
the text that he brought forth, and I think just like some of the emotion of putting it out there, this is what I think and feel. That's what like really drew people in,
yeah,
which is always I've struggled with because growing up, like I grew up singing not anywhere near that level, but just like local church stuff. And my mom and sister were into singing, but I became very self conscious of like, oh, I don't sound good, so it doesn't matter. And like that affects how you're able to display what's actually going on inside as well. And so you
yeah,
get older, and then I'm realizing a lot of these people that are famous, actually, I don't even think they're that good of singers, but they have that heart connection.
mhm,
It's a fascinating topic for
yeah,
me.
that's like
Yeah.
I love Bob Dylan because it's exactly this thing, like, something unique and clear to say that, like, gets right to the point in one clear moment, but also if I were his voice teacher, I'd be like, "Go to the doctor."
Yeah.
Like, "You've got some dysphonia going on, like, this is not healthy." But it's
Yeah.
like, that's a really long career physically with, something a voice teacher would say, "That's dysphonia, that's, like, faulty technique." Like, you gotta, like, look, a runner saying like, you need to look at, this thing or this thing is going wrong in your, your running technique. I would say that to Bob Dylan, yet at the same time, super crazy long career. And I think the reason is when you have something that you need to say or you need to do in the like realm of singing, it's like need to say, then your body organizes itself to get that thing done when you really need to do it.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's like technique is important, but how important is it if you have intention? Yeah.
Yeah. Mm. How's your intention meter right now? Do you feel like you have a lot of intention with what you're doing?
Yes. Yeah. um, yeah, it's like that thing in life when you're kind of on your journey and you're like, I hope this is going somewhere, but what I'm doing or the projects I'm working right now aren't perfect. But I feel like this season I'm doing a lot of role debuts that I've wanted to do and waited on my whole career. And it's
Hmm.
just super fun. Yeah.
Yeah. So I may ask questions that sound ignorant because I am ignorant in this space,
I
but
love it.
with okay, good. With these roles like that you have been looking up for a while, and now you're kind of debuting in them. Talk me through some of the specific things that like really attract you about those roles, and then some of the things that now that you're having the opportunity that kind of scare you or challenge you now that you
Yeah.
have realized them.
Yeah. So I just knocked off like I think every singer has these like probably like races, Like I have in my mind like, oh, I would love to run this marathon or that marathon and like it's the same with roles. Like you're like I want to sing this, I want to sing that, and if I could just reach it to the, my Mount Everest would be this. And for me, it's Violetta and Traviata, and I finally debuted it just a month ago in Korea. And it's like you reach the mountaintop and you're like, "Now what?"
Yeah.
Um,
You won your gold medal, you got there, you did your Olympics, now what?
yeah, yeah, and I got lucky because my Now What is my next project that I kinda wasn't aware would be such a, like, probably soul-searching, human-changing experience,
Mm,
and it's an opera by Missy Mazzoli. She's a female composer, American composer, called Breaking the Waves, based on the movie Breaking the Waves. It's a modern piece, and, it's brutal. It's, like, very dark material, lots of, like, mental illness, falling in love, questioning of religion, lots
mm,
of sex, both positive and the worst parts of it, and,
mhm.
she dies violently at the end,
Wow.
and it's, like, a very dense piece, with a lot of exposed moments, so I'm working my way through that right now, and it's been a challenge, because keeping your system calm enough to perform and sing, that's gonna be the biggest challenge, and then, yeah, you sometimes with a piece, you just have to, like, go through your own life and deal with your own problems through the music, and then end up
Mm.
on stage performing it for people.
Is it because the topics are things like you're wrestling with, religion, sex, whatever, like things that you're like trying to grapple with at the same time, so it's like forcing you to rewrite what's going on up here or not rewrite, but just like, I don't know if cope is the right word, but process or like how do you can you give me some real world examples, I guess is what I'm asking?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, in a lot of opera, there are moments that hit you that you're like, "Wait, I have to process this in my own life because I have to perform it physically
Mm,
and say something physically that's believable." But with Bess, the name of the character, um, she grew up in a small religious community. She has some, like, mental illness that, like, I don't necessarily identify with that extreme, but I think almost anyone can identify with her position of not having necessarily the support she needed in the community she's in as a woman. Um, I mean, so many themes, especially German audiences aren't the same as American audiences, so opening up a discussion around, sexual assault and the assault of, like, domestic violence, that kinda conversation is a little later to the game in Germany, as I would
sure.
say, like, we're having in the United States, especially in the arts and opera world. So I'm really excited to bring that conversation
to the
here and
spotlight.
have
Yeah.
that, but it's not an easy conversation to have for sure.
Yeah. Mm.
Yeah.
Wow. That's crazy. So for like the belief side of this, has it called you to a place to be in question? Like, has it called into question some of the things you believe, or have you started to evaluate more of like why you believe what you believe?
I would say that I grew up Southern Baptist, like I said, and I think you kind of go on a journey of skepticism, at least. I mean, I have gone on a journey of skepticism
Yeah.
and gone through a lot of different things in my life since I left home and traveled far and moved to another
All over the
country.
world. Yeah.
Um, and one of my favorite unexpected parts of diving into this character is her faith. And like faith, whether it's in God or faith in just any sort of deeper meaning, which I think connects with, reaching one of my big career goals, singing this role that I did in Korea. You think, like, what is the greater meaning here? Is it just to like reach goal after goal after goal um, in a career ladder, checking off the list? Like, what is actually the greater meaning? And Bess, learning her as a character is like kicking off me searching for something that's more than just doing the career and just singing.
Yeah. For
And
work.
yeah,
Mm.
yeah. I'm not sure I've found it yet, but I'm
That's
on
good.
I'm on
I'm glad. Yeah, no, I'm glad to have the conversation in that place because I like hearing about just the journey that people on because I believe we all are on different paces of
Mhm.
somewhat of similar the same journey. I think we're all asking the question, what is the meaning of life? What is our purpose? What is
Yeah.
my why? Who is Martha? Like those kinds of questions. But like what are because when I'm going through those kinds of discoveries or journeys with different facets of life, with just outside of even just religion, but what it is to be a husband, a father in the future, or like be a good triathlete.
Mhm.
There's often like I'll see a few paths ahead of me, and I'm like weighing which one is the best, or beliefs and systems of thought and processing, just so I can kind of go to bed at night and be like, yeah, I got that all checked off. So, what are some of the things that you're like unsure about, like? In that topic of belief, of faith, and religion, and whatnot.
Ooh, some of the things I'm unsure about. I have always had this theory that I feel like has recently been proven wrong, that your path will be just like shown to you through consistent chugging away at the hard work every day. And I generally still believe that. It's like get in there, put in the junk miles, do the training, get the practice in. But I think there are some times in life where like God, a higher power, just like pulls the wool from your eyes and you suddenly see,
Hmm,
oh, I'm in the wrong place and I need to just do this. Or
course
I
correct.
am in the right place. I just couldn't see it. And I'm gonna, like, you look back and you see, "Oh, that was actually right." And I don't think there's really any right or wrong, but I recently have discovered that there are some kind of moments that feel super painful that are actually just moments of like the wool being pulled from your eyes and you being able to have a moment of clarity. But I feel like it often comes with a little bit of suffering. So it's like, yeah, one foot in suffering, one foot in joy, and you can kind of see where you're standing.
Hmm,
And yeah, those clarifying moments are painful, but ultimately, like, thank goodness.
yeah.
That
No,
makes
for sure.
yeah.
No, it makes sense. It actually reminds me of just so this morning I was doing just my final, like harder run workout before this
Mhm,
Ironman that's coming up in 10 days or something like that. And as I was pressing to the upper ends of my ability, my lungs started to burn. And then it's like, it's a painful moment to be there, but it is those moments that enable you to be able to have an adaptation for the future. It's not a perfect analogous
mhm,
situation in terms of like the course correction, wool from your eyes moment, but there's a lot of clarity that comes to my mind whenever I am pushed to the limit. I find often that my most creative moments are when I am maxed out emotionally and I
yes,
need to offload those things in some type of an art form
mhm,
or in triathlon too. But I think offloading art and an expression through artistic means can be more beneficial than just trying to go run it out because I don't know. Maybe I think we're all actually supposed to be pretty creative. I don't know. I'm kind of thinking about this out loud as we say it, but that's at least been my experience.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that's why I still like run and challenge myself to run just as like a amateur
Hmm.
because you can find things out there when you're just like, I'm gonna die. And then if you just
Yeah.
keep going, because I feel like that's one thing that also from running has helped me with singing is like, um, I did a pilgrimage through Tuscany and I ran the Via Francigena,
I
just
don't
a
know what that is, but it sounds amazing.
it goes from Canterbury to Rome. I did not do the whole thing. I did like
Oh,
88 miles of it
it's a lot
one
though.
summer and totally 10 out of 10 recommend. It's just like get up, trail run by yourself every day from town to town, eat great food, but
Mm,
it's a pilgrimage uh way and you're pretty much guaranteed to have insane experiences.
no kidding.
um but like day 3 of running I started having some like pain that got into my head, and I'm sure you'd be like, "I know exactly what you're talking about." Um, it wasn't like real pain. It was just my body being like, "I'm really tired. Please stop. We just wanna be comfortable." And I realized this clarity for the first time between, pain that I should pay attention to, like, "Your leg's broken, like, stop,"
Mm,
or pain that is just your mind saying, "You're going past your limits, but you're still totally fine." Um, it's just like really interesting because in singing, even in the at the end of a phrase, you're like running out of air. You still have plenty of air left. You're not gonna like pass out and die. You'll breathe. You might like
mm,
miss the end of the phrase, but it gives you that extra little bit to like make it to the end of a phrase and like have that
mm,
intention and to the end of something. Cause I don't know, it was a clarifying moment that was like, this pain sometimes doesn't matter.
mm. No, that's so beautiful because I
Yeah.
think that what you're talking about a second ago, almost like the faith aspect or belief. I think it's so fascinating with like endurance sport, but I haven't experienced it much with singing or the arts yet. But I think that, like you said, if you believe that you can get there,
Hmm.
and if your lack of belief in yourself will actually probably even restrict your ability, your range of singing.
Oh my
And
gosh.
so like, yeah, like so talk to me about that. Like how do you teach someone to believe in themselves? Because like it's very practical when you're running. You can kind of get there, I think, even easier than if you were going to sing. Because it calls into question your own self. Like everyone gets embarrassed if they don't sing well enough. Not necessarily if they can't run fast enough. I guess somewhat, but anyway, yeah, what you're
Yeah.
gonna say.
I mean, this is like a huge because like we don't see, like, the positive side of it, but we definitely see the negative side of, like, not believing in yourself and in singing. Whew, I mean, the mindset aspect of it is kind of like, in my opinion, now the coolest part once you get a handle on it, but before you do, it can be a rodeo because if you have the wrong mindset going into a performance, you can bomb, and then
Mm,
it's terrifying to bomb because I think it's connected to you walk out and you make a mistake and you think this person is gonna not like me and they're in my community and I'm gonna be excommunicated from my social group and I will die. Like it goes like
yeah,
somehow so deep.
so deep.
So you walk out and you're like, what if I forget the words? Blah, 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 blah. As somebody who made a million mistakes on stage, you start to realize like the world won't end if you crack a note. People will still love you. They might even love you more. Like you're not going to like die, but it's terrifying realizing that. It was also, like, my first marathon I did it where I had no friends, nobody could watch me because what if I shuffled to the end and, like, looked
Yeah.
bad, you know?
Mhm.
Um, like, would they still like me anymore? It's, like, so funny how deep that kind of stage fright, like, performance fright goes.
Hmm.
Yeah.
What are some of the inner critic voices that you notice within yourself that you have to keep at bay, or that you no longer believe, or maybe sometimes you do believe when you don't feel at your best?
Yeah. So I did a crazy thing that I've passed on to a few of my friends, and we use it in my last theater I was working at. I have a very clear inner critic, and I've like given her a lot of character, and I named her Brenda. And she's like a Midwestern woman who makes like great casseroles. She's like the over concerned mom. Yeah. And like I can hear her, like, I've changed her voice in my head. Like, she's that Midwest mom who is, like, terrified I'm gonna make a fool of myself and her friends are gonna be embarrassed, and she's just watching out for me. She doesn't want me to, like, incur any embarrassment or have any hardship. She wants me to be comfortable and, "Oh, honey." And that's like, having her as a character, I'm literally on stage sometimes and I'm like, "Brenda's in the front row. Say hey to Brenda. She comes to every performance. She's my biggest fan. She's just scared I'm gonna mess up and I'll be embarrassed and hurt, but Brenda, I got it. I've practiced like 6 weeks of practice, and if I make a mistake, it's gonna be okay, Brenda." And so this sounds insane now that I'm saying this out loud, but we all
No,
have
not at all. No,
yeah.
no, I think it's so good because I went through this process one time where I was encouraged to write down all of like the phrases that kind of ring back in my mind. And we were encouraged then in this group to kind of draw a picture of all
Mhm.
of what this thing looked like and then say them out loud. But then this is what broke me after, and this was a group with like 30 or 40 people and we were doing this. And there was this crazy music going and we're saying this and it seems just absolutely hilariously stupid. But then the music stops and they're like, "Open your envelope." And what we had forgotten was I pulled out a picture of me from like being 4 years old.
Oh my
And it
gosh.
was like, now say those same things to your kid. I broke down. I get like the same emotion while thinking about it because
Mhm.
we're all constantly saying those things to no one would ever say that to a 4-year-old. It's like
Yeah.
they're a kid, but we're still a kid. Like that's the way it has to be communicated to everybody and understood. Yeah, it's like such a powerful thing to do that, to give it a body, a face, a name, so you
Mhm.
can call it what it is, which is, it's not true. Like that's, and even if some of the things are true, like you said, it's not going to be world ending.
Yeah. And that's,
Yeah,
like, what I find cool about that because 'cause I'm also I don't know if you saw Wicked, the movie.
I didn't.
If you do, there's a moment at the end worth watching the movie for exactly this moment. She grabs her younger child, and it's her realizing that all of her fears were just, like, her adult trying to protect the child, but not doing a really good
Mm,
job. Um, and that's what Brenda is. She's, like, the overprotective mom. But also, if you were, a 4-year-old on stage, you'd be like, 4-year-old Martha would be having the time of her life, not caring what the words even were,
oh
not
yeah,
learning
yeah,
her
yeah.
music. She doesn't care about perfectionism. And that only came from, like, life events, becoming an adult, being like, "The world
Yeah.
is scary. Creativity is scary. You should protect yourself."
Mm.
Yeah.
Of 400 different, performances you've had, that it's assuming it's around that number, like you said, what percentage of those are like, I'm so glad that's over. That was like really, that was a bomb.
Um, a few of them, like, each one is different. I need to find my actual number. It's somewhere between 3 and 4. Um,
That's not bad. That's like what,
yeah,
0.1%? Yeah.
but there are times that you're singing, like, as a fest singer, like I said, we're on stage every night, and sometimes you're singing the lead role, and sometimes you're singing the second tree from the left. And sometimes that's really fun, but there are times when you've done a piece. I've done some pieces, like 30 or 40 performances of the same production, and you're like, "Oh, okay, again, again." Um, but yeah, I mean, there's sometimes you're just like, gotta get through it, gotta stay focused. It's like you try to remember the audience and that, that might be the only time they're singing opera that year or the first time they're singing opera, and you're like, you gotta roll up and do the thing. Yeah.
Hmm. So that kind of brings me to the next question. I was perusing through your Instagram, and you recently did a video about like burnout.
Mm.
So I'd love to understand from your perspective, how do you avoid burnout? Can you avoid burnout? And what are the earlier signs, even before the like, oh, I don't look forward to doing this? Like some of the earlier warning signs that you see when approaching that junction.
Yeah. So this is something that I feel like within the opera community I've started talking about a lot because fest singers are working more and more and more. Um, and our contracts are pretty rough to deal with. Like we generally get 1.5 days off a week. Sometimes we'll work like 12 to 13 days straight, and then we get one day. We never know when our free days are, and we get our schedule at 2 p.m. the day before every day for the whole season. And so if somebody's like, "Hey, want to go out on a date Friday?" You're like, "I'll tell you 2 p.m. on Thursday." Or like, when you go to the dentist, planning like general life things. We've done a lot of work with the union to try to protect like our personal lives. Um, but at the same time, the burnout in classical music and amongst opera singers is a massive issue. I almost don't know anyone who hasn't had like a severe run-in with burnout. And the next step after burnout is vocal injury. And that can
Mm,
injure not only your career, but your ability to communicate for the rest of your life with
mm,
your loved ones. If you mess up these two vocal cords, that's all you get.
yeah.
So it's like a serious topic because it also affects your mental health so much. And then I think with burnout, you see singers, I mean, anyone lose the ability to advocate for themselves because you're so tired. Um, but for me, I mean, actually this bad boy, other than when my
Garmin?
Garmin is being like, "You're too slow." Get
Mhm.
um, and it's saying, "How did that workout feel? How did you sleep?" Starting to ask myself those things around my rehearsals and around my practice, and I've
Mhm.
talked about this with other singers. It's like, "How'd you sleep? What's your stress level? Um, and, like, what's your mood? And did you have a big training day or did you sing for 6 hours yesterday? You should not sing today. Did you sing with orchestra yesterday? Like, today should be a rest day, or after a performance, you need to have a rest day."
Mm,
Um, and also having the time away from the art and away from the theater and diversifying your identity and doing something that's not opera. So, like, going for a run or whatever, spending time with family or friends, or having the ability to go out to a bar and not worry if you can sing the next day. You really need to like completely let go. Um, those are tons of the signs of burnout, but also like you can see it. And when you're in the rehearsal process, right? Like the week before a premiere, we don't taper. We like go full force ahead right into the premiere, and everyone rolls up that night and they're like, "Oh, my voice is so
yeah, I was
tired."
gonna say, should you taper? Like, is that something that needs to be put in?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
We generally, you work the most volume at the very end of a production period, and then you get 1 day off, which usually kind of tanks your body actually, because you just
Yeah,
get the
because 'cause you're
1
like,
day.
"Okay, I can stop," and then you're dead. You're just
Yeah. And everyone's roughing it for the premiere, which is why if you go to the opera, go to the second performance, not the premiere. Everyone's gonna sing way better.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it's things like that that, like, because opera singers aren't considered as athletes. I mean, we were working with our 2 tiny little muscles and, like, tons of our intercostals. Like, when I'm wearing, my Garmin during a rehearsal or, like, a dress rehearsal when I'm not in costume, like, I'm in zone 4 or 5 for periods of time. Um,
Wow.
so
Can you start to publish that data, actually? Do you do that?
yes, I'm
I
gonna
need to
start
start following you on Strava because I wanna see that, like, "Hey, here's what the" because 'cause I've tracked weird things before just, like,
Mhm.
to see what happens, but singing like that would be amazing to watch, to
Yeah,
look at.
yeah. There was, like, one production I did, where I think I ran at least a 5K, like, up and down stairs over the course of the whole night. Yeah,
Wow.
it's crazy. Um, but yeah, I think that this is a huge theme because we're just considered artists, not like,
Mhm. Athletes.
dancers. It's makes a little bit more sense. I'm work at a state theater, which means ballet, straight theater, opera, orchestra. And so we work a lot together. And so the dancers have like a little bit different schedule. It's still brutal. Um, but they're more clearly considered like artist
Yeah.
athletes. Yeah.
Can you make the argument, or is it possible to say that, or accurate to say that you can actually increase your cardiovascular fitness through the work that you do? Obviously, running up and down the stairs while singing, but, like, singing in general, I feel like it does do that, yeah?
I want someone to study this because as singers, we talk about this all the time. Once you've been singing professionally for like a few years, your body starts to change in like pretty specific ways. Um, like for women, like you'll buy a concert gown, and 2 or 3 years later, if you move up, we say in Fach, and start singing larger repertoire, your intercostals, like your rib cage, like expands.
Expands.
And I mean, we also have like we have a lot of overuse injuries like heartburn because we're just like pushing up and down on our pelvic floor and our diaphragm like all night long. Like hard enough to make sound go over a 70-piece orchestra as one
That's crazy.
unamplified person. So it's like the internal amount of air pressure is a lot. And then we are sustaining that like with all of these muscles, not necessarily like, but they have to be flexible. So we're like needing to be able to contract and relax them at a given moment to, make a phrase like louder or softer and control
Mm.
our air pressure in that way. It's like trumpet players. My partner's a trumpet player, and it's a lot of the same stuff. Like you can't just play and play and play. You got to have some physical rest because like
Your
all of
lips
these,
like just don't even work after a
yeah,
while. They become this inability to pinch them
hmm,
together to make the high notes. Yeah.
yeah,
That's so interesting. I wish that this kind of stuff was more popular now because when I first started playing instruments really pretty young, around fifth, sixth grade, trying to alto sax and then the trumpet, I would get really discouraged, especially playing trumpet because we would be practicing a lot before a big, a band camp or whatever it
yeah,
was, band festival. And then like my lips just would, I couldn't push any harder or
yeah,
like create the muscle. And like that takes a lot of muscle to it. So I'm sure it's the same for singing. And yeah,
yeah.
maybe there's a new field of study that needs to be enacted to
I would
bring
love that.
education. Maybe you should start a foundation that does just that.
I would absolutely adore that. I also think like for people who can sing but don't have a lot of mobility, I think singing can be like
Mm.
a form of very light exercise. Like it gets your heart rate up when you're doing it in a like classical singing, like really projecting. Um, and you're working a lot with like expanding your body from the inside and your pelvic floor and a lot of this stuff. So I'm like telling my parents who are I'm just like, yeah, you should just, sing,
Start singing.
sing a little
Yeah.
bit.
So what do you start to do, or what are some of the tricks that most people may not know who are not in the industry or are outside of just like a casual singer? What are the things you do to expand your ability to go deeper and have a longer breath and get to higher notes? Like, is it just little rudiments of this or that, or what is it?
Yeah. So classical singing tradition has been passed down kind of like almost a oral history. There are a few voice pedagogues who have written books about it that include specific exercises, literally like a PT or like somebody would give you at the gym. And there are certain patterns of vocalises and ways, vowels, consonants. Um, and like the set of exercises I used was passed down to me from my teacher who studied with Ricci, who also taught Maria Callas. And so this set of exercises is basically used to train the voice for agility. I mean, all these tiny muscles for agility, diction. Diction is just a matter of like all of your articulators in your mouth, like learning how to use them or relax them, use them or not use them at your
To give
will
a
to
certain
create,
sound.
yeah, clear diction. Um, Lots of ligaments. Like I've had tongue tie surgery so that I can I had a tongue tie like 70%,
Does that
which
mean
no
like
one
cutting it
no
underneath?
cut it
Yeah.
underneath. No one noticed because I've been singing so long, and I think I, like, learned how to, like,
Do it
speak
without.
correctly outside of that. Um, but it's amazing how much it, like, helped so many things. Yeah, things like that, but it's really just, like, getting your body correct, like, posture. Lots of
Mm.
singers doing cardiovascular stuff or, like, Pilates is really popular because it's a lot of inner strength work. And then just your series of exercises that build in these physical habits, like how to sing triplets. You don't want to be like on stage thinking, how do I sing a triplet? It's just got to happen, just like
Yeah.
a motion. Yeah.
Mm, that's super fascinating. It would be so fun to be able to take 6 months or a year and just dive into that profession to see what kind of ability you could build up over time for.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like anybody, I selfishly want to do that, but yeah, that would be
If
super
you
crazy.
ever, yeah, totally get in touch if you're like, I want to take voice lessons. Anyone can learn how to sing.
Yeah. Do
Absolutely.
you give voice lessons?
I do. I have like one or two students that I do aside from my theater work where like I try to keep performing at the forefront and then I'm sure when I'm not performing as much I'll take on more students because I adore it. I absolutely adore, yeah, watching people do these exercises and like get stronger and get better and get more agile, be able to like sing higher, sing lower,
Mhm.
have more confidence. Like it's like, yeah, it's like training for a marathon and suddenly you roll up and you're like, oh, I can do
I can
this
do
because I
this.
trained.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I may reach out to you. I've been wanting to do that for a while. I after doing this sport, like, pretty seriously now for 5 or 6 years now, I've noticed that it's already just helped me in singing in general, like
Mhm.
performing at a church or whatever, and I know that there's more, there's always more, like that mountain continues to go up, but yeah, that's super fascinating. I might have to reach out sometime.
Yes. Join the club.
Mayb Yeah, so I'll join the club. I'll start being an opera singer.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this question. First, an observation. So when people finish like a really prestigious race or something, the people who come in first, it's like everyone wants to talk to them, or this just that they draw people in. I would assume when you have some of these performances around the world, especially the ones where you're more in the spotlight, singing, I feel like does it even more because you're a woman and then it sounds pretty and people are like, oh, that's just super attractive. I want to talk to this person. So when people come up to you and talk to you afterwards, what are the things that you hear most common? And then what thing, if there are any things that like kind of annoys you? And then the final question of that, sorry, there's three of them. When people look at you and they, what do you think they see and what do you want them to see?
Oh, yeah. Most of the time, I've been very lucky in my career. I've had good experience with audience members. There, I have colleagues with stories you can imagine of, I mean, people like opera fans can be just like amazing. And I'm so thankful for them, but they can go sometimes a little overboard and be a little stalkery and, you know, but most of the time, I'm incredibly thankful that people show up and are so invested in you. I've had, like, a fan at the theater that I was at come to literally all of my performances, had them, like, laminated, like, my performance dates, and I was like, "Should I call him up and be like, 'What am I doing next week?'" Um,
Hire them.
but
Yeah.
I love that he was, you know, it's like people who are obsessed with a certain sports team. Opera in Germany is there are 80 over 80 theaters. Every town
Wow.
has an opera house and the community, you know, that is around it, like our audiences, they know who we are. They want to see us from night to night. It's like going to see the game. Honestly, and they're like, "Oh, you know, how's Martha going to sing this role and then this totally different, you know, other role, other style of music in another language and how's that going to go?" You know, it's like first base. "Oh, she's pitching tonight." You know, like what's it going to be like?
Yeah.
Um and I love that aspect of it in Germany. It's something that doesn't exist so much in the States, why I moved over here, but luckily no crazy stories. But I would say a lot of performers are different people than we are on stage, especially after a while of performing. You're able to play a lot of different roles, and acting and stagecraft is just that. It's like it's technique, it's expression, but it's also not who we are necessarily. And hopefully there's always a little bit of who I am on stage, but
Sure.
that's n- less important than the character I'm playing and their emotions and like making those emotions real for the audience. But
Mm.
I hope that the audience sees a little. That's why I'm active on Instagram. I hope the audience meets some of the artists and sees a little behind the curtain so that they have that connection with the art of like, maybe I want to take voice lessons and see what it's like to sing simply because it'll expand me as a human or like give me another area of expression that they kind
Mm.
of see like a little bit of the process behind the art instead of just coming to the opera and saying, "Oh wow, it's so beautiful and it seems so easy," because it's
Yeah.
a lot of work behind it.
Yeah. Has anybody ever done any like vlog style documentary of the lead up to like a big performance and then like just showcasing that story all the way through to performance, premiere
I
and day after?
I need for someone to do that. I think it would be a great comedy or a great, um, like, putting on an opera, it's unbelievable the stuff that happens. Just, like, so
Mm.
many stories that you're like, "I can't even fathom that's you know, that happened," and so many performances of things that happened on stage that you're like, "So and so's pants fell down." You know, like, you just never
Oh my.
know what's
Yeah.
gonna happen, but it's also the same. It's usually a 6 to 8 weeks of rehearsal period, and you're creating something from scratch. You just have the score and you have to bring it to life. So we're working with fashion designers who make our costumes, set designers who are like, you know, architects and also have to deal with sound design and materials. Our
Mm.
makeup and wig people, making sure we look great. And it's a lot of things can go wrong that you would never think of. Like you walk out in a wig and suddenly it's a different color because the lighting designer hasn't communicated with the makeup wig person. Like all of these details that have
A lot
been,
of logistics, yeah.
yeah,
That's
it's wild.
wild.
Hmm.
That would be a good documentary. Maybe we can find somebody from the triathlon world to come over there and do that. I think that'd be super fascinating
That would be so
to
cool.
hear.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, most opera houses, like our opera house where I am now, I think we employ like 8 or 900 people. It's like a small city.
Holy cow.
It's a small town.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So these are
Yeah.
pretty big budget things then, I would imagine, with that many people. Wow. Who funds this? Is it all off ticket sales?
So Germany
Advertising?
is funded a lot by the government. It's opera in Germany because it's historically like, I mean,
Significant.
we have all the composers. It's our Broadway in Germany.
Okay.
And so it's protected as a world cultural heritage officially.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
crazy. I need to buy some tickets to my wife and go see it because I feel like opera has in the mainstream kind of like if you like it, you
Hmm.
like it. If you don't, you don't. But I truly have never experienced it other than this is going to sound really embarrassing, but like what was my experience of opera? Oh yeah, watching Bugs Bunny when I was little, or like
Yeah.
stuff like that. Like that's
Yeah.
your only experience of like, oh, is that really what it is? You know.
Yeah.
So I feel like it would be good to. It'd be really neat to go and see that. I love orchestra, like bringing you to tears. Music has done that for me a few times too, but I would love to see the whole thing. So I need to make that
Yeah.
happen. Yeah.
Go to a good opera because that's the thing that's the tricky part. Opera is really complicated, and I would say like 1 in 12 is gonna just be like, "What?" Like, life-changing, and the rest of it might be kind of like or a
Yeah.
little it's a hard art form to kinda get right,
Master. Yeah.
but I also identify with that because I didn't come in contact with the art form other than recordings until I was older, 'cause yeah,
Mhm.
there's no orchestra in Appalachia.
Yeah. I was going to say, you probably never thought when you were 15, 16, 18 that you'd be in this world.
No way. Yeah.
Yeah. How did you break in? Like what? Because I guess you saw that performance that was pretty moving. Yeah.
Yeah, ugh, I think it's good. Something that I like about my artistry is, like, I don't it's not like I woke up and was like, "I'm gonna become an opera singer," and even when I was studying, I got my master's in opera performance, I was still skeptical. I went to University of Virginia and I studied music, but it was not a performance degree. It was a lot of, like, musicology and composition, and then I did, a second major, which was arts administration, so a lot of business classes, museum curation, nonprofit stuff, and I thought, I'll probably, like, run a museum or, like, go into ballet or, like, work on grant funding for the arts, which is, like, really I thought would be really interesting. All of those skills have served me great as an actual performer because you're running a one-woman business that,
Mm-hmm.
like most artists, go to conservatory and they get trained in the art, but they don't get trained in how to break into the industry. And the industry is rough, and I found it really interesting, that part of my brain that was like, "Oh, arts administration and management, like, how does this industry work? And, like, how can we make it better?" And that's actually how I ended up in Germany, was I got a grant to study the kinda financial structure of opera in Germany because it has this specific fest system, and I ended up being like going to the opera and being like, "I wanna be on stage. I don't wanna write about this. I don't wanna,
Mm-hmm.
like, study this. I wanna be up there doing it," and I can always come back to figuring out, like, the financial structure in Germany of opera is so different, and it allows this incredible system that hires more, classical musicians than anywhere else in the world, uh, to exist here.
That's
Um,
so cool.
yeah. So it's like, how can we bring some of that to other places in a way that fits the culture pretty
Mm,
well? But that's
yeah.
for my second life.
Yeah, I was gonna say, well, that needs to happen. Like in the U.S., I feel like that. It's interesting how easy it is to just find a piano nowadays that someone's thrown away. Like I got this beautiful 1931 piano. I just needed a little tuning up, and I have it in my house now. First time ever having a piano, and I was just so excited. It has a lot of character. It's not perfectly in tune, and I don't know if it ever will be
That's
because the
fine.
strings are literally like 100 years old. But
Mhm.
yeah, that like people, it just I don't know. I guess I say this because I don't know everyone in the U.S., but it seems like it's just really lost its importance in our culture, like musicians, which I guess most everyone immigrated from somewhere else and from Europe, and that's where it came in. But then it's kind of died off to like, well, I want to be a streamer, which is fine, but it's like, yeah, music. Like, I feel like that there needs to be a resurgence and a great awakening for people to like what desire to create unique music, especially in the world of AI stuff now. It's like, come on,
Yeah.
like you gotta get out there and make something new.
This is like my biggest hope for opera because when it's good, it is so good.
Really
And
good.
it doesn't matter that it's in another language. It's most of opera is, if you really dig into the art form, it's like the opposite of pretentious. It's like everyday story about everyday things that like a history of rich audience people have like cut the rest of us off from having access to.
Hmm.
And you have just people up there like wailing unamplified over an orchestra, like screaming their heart out. And you don't bring your phone in. It's one of my favorite things about my job, especially as somebody who's active on social media. When I'm in rehearsals, like my phone's somewhere else. I'm staring at a human being. I'm making music with a human being. We're breathing together. Like in a performance, it's like, think about how rare that is for, an audience of 1,000 some people and all of us on stage, and we're sitting there, not a phone in sight. And we're like paying attention for hours, for like
Yeah.
multiple hours. Like,
Suddenly ADD disappears. Yeah.
yeah, it's like, where else do we get that luxury anymore?
It's
Why?
crazy. Kind of sad that that's a luxury until everything kind of blows up and just nothing digital works again. And then we have to go back to all that. The violins will still work. The voices will still work. So the only thing you
Yeah.
may struggle with is lighting, but we can always light a candle.
Yeah. That's what they used to
Yeah.
do. They had, which is why so many theaters went, went up in flames. Imagine
Yeah.
that.
No kidding. So are you a writer? Do you write? Because you obviously know how to do composition. Do you have a desire to do more of that? I don't know how much you have done, but
Yeah. So I run a like weekly newsletter called Rehearsal Notes. That's kind of a mix of some like vocal technique stuff, but also a lot of mindset, entrepreneurial, a lot of like endurance athlete mindset stuff makes it into the newsletter because a
it's
lot of
awesome.
opera singers are like ritual addicts for some reason because they're just like there's a lot of parallels in how to deal with performance anxiety and like dealing with like stuff like that and then mapping it onto classical music. Um, but yeah, so that goes out every week. And then I do some deep dives into some kind of like inside baseball stuff about the singing industry. Like this month, it's about social media, personal branding, and like that, because that's become really important for opera singers as the pandemic has changed the structure of the industry a lot. We used to rely a lot on agents and managers to find us work, and now we can do that ourselves by like having
Self
our
promoting.
materials. Yeah. Um, yeah, like last month it was about burnout, a little bit about burnout. Month before that, vocal technique stuff. So I love writing about educational things.
Yeah. Do you think you'll ever write any music or opera
I would
pieces?
love to.
Yeah.
um, yeah, like I think some nights over a few beers and some friends, like we have some things cooked up for the future, but writing an opera is a huge undertaking. That's why I'm also really excited for this next project because Missy Mazzoli is a female composer. She's just a few years older than I am, and I've adored her music forever. And I just like have such wonder for people who can like literally come up with a whole piece, like the theater, the text. I mean, you usually work with a librettist, which is what I would like see myself as instead of writing the composition, but usually, yeah, it's like having a playwright and a composer kind of work together and work with a few other people and create this piece that's, yeah, viable. It's
Hmm.
wild.
Yeah. You think it'd be easier to make a movie or to make an opera?
Oh. Probably a movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking, because the movie, I mean, it's not a perfect comparison, but I was talking with someone yesterday, the episode that's gonna come out about a guy who did a full-length feature of an hour and a half film,
Wow.
and then now hearing this, I'm like, "I wonder which one would be more difficult because you can kind of do retakes for the film, and I guess your multiple shows by the 5th or 6th one, you probably got it ironed out pretty well, but, yeah, it's super interesting, like, you gotta kinda nail it the first time if you can. Yeah.
Yeah, and you gotta deal with, like, composing for an orchestra, you gotta know all the instruments, what range they can play in. If it's gonna get too thick, like, can the singers be heard over the orchestration? Will
Yeah.
they hear the text? Is it dramatically compared? There's, like, so many. I mean, I'm sure making a movie would be crazy hard,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, that's wild. So for and how you operate nowadays, because we've talked about this a little bit of moving from more of an analytical stage in life to more of like an emotional state, or at least in
Mhm.
the way that you express yourself in your art form. Do you spend just in everyday life, not just in your profession now, do you think that you spend more time in your head or in your heart?
now I'm spending more time in my heart, but that's a very new shift, I would say, in the last, like, years and even more so in the last months, for sure.
Really?
Yeah, yeah. I think for me, most of my life, it's way more comfortable to live in my head, and I'm only now realizing, like, the suffering, but the benefits of the suffering of getting in touch with my, emotions and, like,
Mhm.
dealing with that and dealing with what's in my heart and acting on it. Terrifying.
Yeah. Are your parents proud of what you do?
Yeah, they are. I think for a while they didn't understand it, but my parents have been so supportive even when they're like, "We don't know what you're doing, like, you're moving to another country. Thanks for telling us, like, yesterday." But yeah,
Yeah.
but they're kind of like, "If you think this is the right thing, you'll figure it out." And especially being a classical musician, it's not always been easy, and there have been points in my life when I've been kinda hanging out to dry on my own because I wouldn't
Mm.
ask for help and I needed it, and they've always just called and said, "If you go for broke and, well, you have a place to land," which is an
Yeah,
incredible
we'll be here.
privilege, and, um but also when I've been in a pickle, so to say, up a creek without a paddle, my dad has always been very quick to say, "Oh, you'll figure it out. Good luck out there. You'll figure it out." And helped, kind of push me past that pain point to where I actually do figure something out.
Mm.
Yeah.
That's a hard thing to do as a parent, I would imagine. I'm not a parent yet, but I think that will be one of the things I will struggle with the most, and I
Yeah.
really admire people who can do that. Let the person
Yeah.
suffer to the extent of on their own of that they should without, "Oh, I wanna help you here, let me,
Mhm.
pick you back up." Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, it's like I think if you also, I mean, that's something I really have been thinking about even this week. I've had some, like, big life events happen that have been beautiful, but also thinking about just kind of, if you're kind of on the wrong path and you have the wool pulled from your eyes, like we were saying, and then you see, "Ah, I gotta go this way. And it's gonna be weird for people when I make this decision, but this is my path." At least all of the problems on that path and, like, the struggles, are the ones that are for you.
Mm.
And I don't want somebody to, like, take that away from me because then I don't get to figure out how to get through it. Like, I don't get the development of figuring that problem out if somebody figures it out for me.
Yeah.
So I'm always kind of like, maybe overly self-reliant, probably because
Mm.
of that mindset, but I think it's true in a lot of ways.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. Well, like you said, then the other side of that is, like, asking for help and not asking too soon, but are you getting better at knowing when to ask for help? Like, do you feel like you have that pretty well figured out?
Yeah, I'm definitely getting better. I've I've gotten very lucky with my partner. I mean, I think there's no greater joy in life than having a partner who, like, really believes in you
Mhm.
and, like, sees when you wanna get through your struggle and that's meant for you and you wanna figure it out yourself. but who's always, there to be like, "Let me give you a hand so you can figure out how faster," or like give you some good advice. Um, and I'm really thankful I found that person for me because especially as an artist or endurance athlete or anything, when you have like something big that you want to accomplish, like you need support for sure.
Mm,
You need a
yeah,
good team. I have some really good friends who are also
yeah.
quick to be like, "Martha, nope."
Yeah, it sounds like you know how to pick friends then, because like
Yeah.
some people, they can be on either side of the equation. People that
Yeah.
are absolutely not supportive, and then people that are way too supportive of everything you do and to a point of it being toxic. Yeah,
Yeah. Honesty is like a big value I have in friends. Even if it is not going to be what I want to hear, I want to be. You need
yeah,
that for sure.
yeah, perspective. Hmm.
Yeah.
So my final question for you, your path seems like it's definitely not a typical path for how to get to somewhere to find your ideal career or whatever the profession may be or starting something, whatever it is. You've made choices, like you said, along the way, and sometimes you felt like the path was right in front of you, and now it's like a little bit different. The wool is removed. With all of that in context, for somebody who is trying to figure out, well, what should I do with my life? Based on your experience, what is some advice you would give to them to be able to discover what that thing may be?
Yeah. Oh, this is such a good question. I've had like a couple moments in my life where I'm like, what am I doing? Am I going to go to medical school? Am I going to like write grants for people? Am I really going to do this thing of being an opera singer? I think you have to, what my advice would be is to like build some moments where you can actually get quiet with yourself. I mean, I think for
Mm,
some people that's like prayer and faith. Like I have a meditation practice. I a TM, transcendental meditation practice that's helped me really clarify a lot of things. Sometimes it's music that I can get quiet and kind of hear that like internal guidance system, whatever that is. Um, but I also think when you're not sure, sometimes you just gotta like get moving in a direction and like run into a bunch of walls and like forks in the road and just
yeah.
choose one. And if it's wrong, you can go back. Like, or
Try.
sometimes you
Yeah.
can't go back, but you can just start moving and like observing
Mm,
and not like that's helped me a lot. Like recently, it's just like move,
make a step.
create, go forward, and you'll like figure it out when you get there. And maybe you'll look back and realize, oh, I did figure it out. I just didn't know I was doing it at the time.
Mm, beautifully said.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time. It's been really fun because it's helped me cement the idea that yes, I want to have more musicians on this
Yeah.
show to get to know them and hear that lifestyle because I find myself asking questions and I'm like, I don't know if this is a good or bad question. And maybe I can live up to the name of the podcast a little bit more. So thank you for making this an opportunity where I get to learn about something totally outside of my wheelhouse, and for being so gracious with it. So it was really cool to hear your story and wish you all the best with your new mountaintop
Oh,
debuts.
thank
And
you.
we'll look forward to seeing your the opera that you write here before too long.
Amazing. Well, thanks for having me. They're definitely fun to like cross yeah, like endurance
Do a
sport
little
and
crossover.
musicians. Very cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. Thank you.
Amazing.
Thank you so much to Martha for coming on and sharing her story and a profession, in a world that is totally outside of my wheelhouse. It was really fun to get to interview her and learn some new things. Obviously, I love music, so we had that to connect on and endurance sport. But the little in between gray areas of things that I didn't know about was fun to ask questions about to give me the opportunity to learn something. And that's truly what I enjoy. And I hope that you guys enjoyed it too. So thanks again to Martha. Wish her all the best. And make sure to, again, check out the show notes for ways to follow her and get involved in that side of the world and the crossover of endurance sport and music. Yeah, thank you guys so much for being here. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.